Okay, let's do this. Now, the most overwhelming feeling in the world. Let's watch this.
Around the year 1558, the Flemish artist Peter Bruegel the Elder painted what appears at first glance to be a rather calm, mundane scene. The painting is titled Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. In the foreground, a farmer is intently focused on plowing his field. A shepherd leans lazily on his staff, gazing up at the clouds. A beautifully rendered merchant ship glides across a calm, sunlit sea. It is a portrait of ordinary life, continuing at its own quiet, relentless pace. But if one looks very closely at the bottom right corner of the canvas, thrashing wildly in the green water, there's a pair of pale, desperate
Someone's just drowning in the picture. That's crazy. Cause I didn't even see it.
legs. This is Icarus, the boy of Greek myth who strapped wings of wax.
For people who don't know, Icarus is basically Icarus. I know people. I feel like you've heard the saying where like you've flown too close to the sun. That's basically in reference to Icarus, where he had his wings. He flew to the sun. I can't remember the reason. I think it was going. He was trying to go to God or heaven. So he basically flew to the sun and he got burned up in essence and fell.
And feathered to his back, defied the laws of gods and men, flew too close to the sun, and fell from the heavens.
Yeah.
It is one of the most famous, devastating tragedies in all of Western mythology. And yet, in Bruegel's masterpiece, nobody cares. The farmer doesn't break his stride, the shepherd doesn't look down, the ship sails on. A cosmic tragedy is occurring
No one
just a
gives
few feet
no one
away.
cares.
But to the farmer, the most important thing in the universe is the dirt beneath his plow. Icarus is not the main character of this.
It is very true. You care about what affects you the most. If you're caring about your job as a farmer and what you're doing, you don't give a shit about what the other person is doing or what the person was trying to achieve, or if he failed, or even if he failed or succeeded. To you, it's irrelevant because you have no connection to that person. You don't care what happens to that person. You only are concerned with what you're trying to do.
Painting is merely a brief, barely noticeable splash in the background of the farmer's day. In the winter of 1938, the poet
It's where it's how people say that you're the main character in your own story, but in other people's stories, you are not. So, for example, if you're gonna do a painting about yourself, like for example, let's say Icarus is doing a painting about himself, he would be the main focus of the scenery, and then other backgrounds, people. While in that photo, yeah, in that painting, you saw Icarus being the background character, and the other people were in the foreground.
W. H. Auden stood in the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Brussels staring at this exact painting. It struck him so deeply that he wrote a poem about it, realizing that the old masters understood something we didn't about human suffering, that it is fundamentally lonely. A tragedy is only a word.
I honestly disagree with this point. It's fundamentally. Let me just hear the exact thing,
That
like
it
exact.
is fundamentally lonely,
What is
and we
fundamental?
didn't about human
So,
suffering.
suffering is fundamentally lonely. I hmm no, it's not fundamentally lonely because you can suffer with other people with you, and you can also suffer. You don't have to suffer alone, and it's not fundamentally a lonely thing.
That it is fundamentally lonely. A tragedy is only a world ending event to the person experiencing it. To the rest of the world, it is nothing more than another day. Bruegel
No, because tragedy could affect more than one person at the same time. I know, for example, this is going to be an extreme example, but for example, 9/11, it's a tragedy that millions of people suffered from. no one suffered alone in that aspect. But you can have situations where this specific thing affected you and only you, and you're going through it alone. Even for example, if you have someone on the sidelines supporting you, either your mom, dad, girlfriend, brother, sister, in essence, you're going through that alone. You're the only one who's suffering that feeling.
This painting captures a deeply unsettling reality about the architecture of human consciousness. Human storytelling has always relied on the same unyielding hierarchy. There's the protagonist, and then there is everything else. To exist in a human body is to be locked
So basically, building blocks of any story where you have the main character and then the side characters.
inside a first-person perspective, serving as the undisputed narrator, hero, and focal point of a sprawling epic narrative. Everyone else is inherently perceived as a background character, extras rendering in real time just to populate the scenery of a single central life.
NPCs,
In
basically.
biology, there's a concept called the Umwelt. It suggests that every living organism is trapped in its own unique sensory bubble. A tick, a bat, and a human being can occupy the same exact physical space in a forest, but they are living in entirely different, non-overlapping universes dictated by what their senses can perceive.
No, I can definitely imagine that. For example, from a tick perspective in a forest, its like boundary of sensing is maybe from a tree a couple meters away to another tree a couple meters away, and all this perceiving is just blades of grass. While from a human's perspective, you can say hundreds of trees in front of you and see animals going about. You can see snow falling, but from a tick's perspective, you can't see any of that.
Human beings are subjected to an emotional and psychological Umwelt. In developmental psychology, children must actively learn theory of mind, the intellectual realization that other people hold different thoughts, secrets, and perspectives than they do. But a human
I
being
think that's basically the idea of Sonder, where you believe that where you the realization that everyone's life is as complex as yours. To where like you think when you sit down and actually look around and be like, that person has a home, he's going through stuff as he might be going through the same things I'm going through. He's gonna go home, he's gonna go to work out, he's gonna go to the cinema, he's gonna go out with friends, he's gonna go out, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, he's gonna do that. He has as complex a life as you do, and his life has nothing to do with you. Your life and his life don't intersect, but he has a life. It might be even a greater life than you have, a more complex life than you have. To if to where you're basically the side character to him.
never truly outgrows their innate egocentric bias. The brain simply cannot sustain the emotional weight of absolute empathy, and so it retreats to the only perspective it can truly access. It retreats into the ego. The ego convinces the mind that it is being observed. It assumes that the world is paying attention. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. In the year 2000,
Is that basically where you feel like you're the main character?
researchers at Cornell University conducted a study where subjects were forced to wear an embarrassing t-shirt into a crowded room. The subjects were universally convinced that
No, I believe that no one would notice, because in a crowded room, no one would even focus on what shirt you're wearing. And even if someone notices a shirt, literally a couple seconds after, they will stop talking about it. They might, for example, see the shirt, talk about it for a couple seconds, be like, "Oh, that's a weird shirt. Like, what the fuck is this person wearing?" A couple seconds go by, no mention of that shirt again. They no longer care about it. It's no longer something that's new or different. They just got used to it. We're like, okay, we talked about it. Now let's go to the next topic. And that's why I feel like people should go be more out there or like outlandish. into where like they can put themselves out there. Because you think people will care about people comment and people make fun and people will be judging, but literally people after a couple after a person sees you for a couple seconds, they will go about the next topic. Because let's put this in perspective. For example, if someone's commenting, for example, about something that happened in the movie, they saw a specific scene in a movie, okay, and they talk to their friend about it. They're like, look at that, whatever that is happening on screen. Then that goes by. They're not gonna be like when it appears again. For example, I know I just said it, for example, an example, but to go into more specific detail, let's say a person on a show has this weird face, has a weird hat, and then the person's gonna comment on the hat and gonna be like, look at it, look at this funny hat, like what the fuck, that's weird. Next thing goes by, the person shows up again with the same hat. The person is not gonna mention that hat again because it's redundant, and it no longer is surprising. You're no longer gonna be care about what the person's wearing, unless that person keeps changing hats. But if the person's literally wearing the same hat, you literally got used to the fact. You just comment on that fact for a couple seconds and be like, "Oh, I'll go about my day." So I feel like people who are scared to go out there and try and be themselves and are scared of the embarrassment, literally the person that sees you are gonna care for maybe a couple seconds. Then to them, this is just normal. Nothing's weird about this anymore.
That the majority of the room was judging them. In reality, practically no one even noticed what they were wearing. We all believe we are Icarus. We believe
It's also, even if they notice, they'll forget about it. They won't even care about it. They'll be like, okay, yeah. Wait.
our triumphs are massive. We believe our falls, our awkward mistakes, and our triumphs are massive, eliminated events being witnessed by the world. We project our own main character syndrome onto a backdrop of extras. The brutal, humbling truth is that everyone else in the room is the farmer, entirely focused on their own plow, obsessed with the dirt beneath their own feet, just like we are. But occasionally, looking up at the lit windows of an apartment building,
We
or
think we're
noticing a face
we think we're Icarus. We're the main characters, and the world is revolving around us. While in actuality, we're nothing in comparison to everyone else's life and world.
in the background of an old photograph, a psychological glitch occurs. The camera momentarily pulls back, floating higher and higher until the individual ego is reduced to a microscopic speck. Sonder
Yeah, like I was talking about Connor. Like there has been moments where I've been sitting in a cafe or whatever and just sitting and looking around at people and people watching, and then imagining that person has as in-depth a life as me, as complex a life as me. He's going out right now. He's going to do something. Then he has a family. He has a house. He has stuff to go back to. Then he's gonna go out. He has friends. That person that I've seen for a couple seconds has as complex a life as me, with as much detail, and it always blows my mind. Even like, duh, of course he does, but it always blows my mind to think about how looking around and being, and for example, imagining people's lives and what they're like. It's it's shocking. It's shocking, like how in depth someone's life could be, and you never think about it.
was the word John Koenig chose to describe the specific Russian.
Like for example, I don't know if any person has ever done this. For example, when you walk by and for example see into someone's house and just see someone doing something in the kitchen, for example, while you're walking by, you'll be like imagining what that person's life is like. Or someone walking by on the street, you're like, what's this person doing? And I'm trying to imagine this is the person's life.
Psychological vertigo, and for a feeling so universally relatable, it is almost astonishing that it lacked a name until 2012. He defines it as the profound sudden realization that each random passerby has a life as vivid and complex as one's own. It is the jarring awareness that every single person on earth is living a story of their own, complete with their own ambitions, friends,
Because like when we thinking about the bigger picture, that millions of people have their own unique life, and they do stuff every day that you could not imagine what the person is doing. And they go about their day doing all these errands and all these things, and you know nothing about them. It's crazy. It feels like something like, of course, that's what happened. That's what's happening. But when you think about it, it's like shocking.
routines, crushing failures, and secret tragedies. The realization that an anonymous face in a crowd is the center of a universe that is completely inaccessible, an endless web of intertwined plots in which the observer does not even feature as a footnote. It is a terrifying concept because it exposes the severe limits of human
I feel
comparison.
like people are scared to think about these things because it makes them feel insignificant, to where there's no point in their life because everyone has a complex life as their own, to where they're not special in any way possible. So it makes them feel like useless, like just an ant. But I feel like that's not the right way to look at things. You should be happy that other people have as complex a life as you, and that should just ensure make you want to do more with your life, to where you're not satisfied. You're not what's it called? You're not doing nothing with your life. That you have to, because you're not special. Because for example, some people, for example, would do nothing and think they're, oh, because I'm the main character in this world, I'm the main protagonist, whatever it is. So they don't see any reason for them to try to do anything because the world revolves around them. But when you think about that, the world actually doesn't revolve around you, and people are going about their day and doing things and trying new things, and you just sat there doing nothing. I feel like the best way to look at your life and the best like way to view your life is, if my life was a movie or a TV show, how would people feel watching me right now? And it makes you try to be like, I need to be not interesting, but just be like, I need to do things. Like, could you imagine watching a movie or TV show and just seeing the person just sitting in their bed watching TikTok for like 3 hours, 5 hours, or another person who goes went to the gym, went rock climbing, then went to do this with their friends. It's a way more interesting story or to watch. You should always live your life as if it's a movie or story, to try to make the most out of your day. To where if someone were to look at, if someone could view your life, to be like, to be actually interested in watching it.
The mind is not a machine built to handle the emotional bandwidth of 8 billion protagonists. Anthropologists point to Dunbar's number, the cognitive limit to the number of people with whom a human can maintain stable social.
And no offense to the guy, but why does his voice sound so depressed? It feels like he's saying it with, he's so monotone. He's like, and this is what I feel like, and it's, I don't know why. I don't know why he's so monotone.
Relationships, usually hovering around 150. Beyond that number, the human brain begins to aggressively compress the data. Neurological studies focusing on
Like he feels like he doesn't even care what he's talking about.
in-group versus out-group perception have shown that the brain processes strangers with less neural complexity. It is an automatic subconscious downgrading of another being's humanity. People cease to be complete multidimensional entities and become statistics, demographics, or scenery. This is why humanity is plagued by the identifiable victim effect. The phenomenon where society will weep over the tragedy of one single named person but remain entirely emotionally numb to a statistic detailed.
And the reason for this is because people can't imagine the numbers. Because when you it's like when you put stuff in that big of a perspective, you can't imagine it. Example: if someone said this killer killed millions of people, you'll be like, okay. But if you hear like this killer killed 10 people in his hometown, it's like that's more gruesome. And it's also, oh, this person blew up an entire town with a bomb. You'll be like, okay, but this person actually went out and went into people's homes, slicing them up, carving their hearts out, killing people with a knife. It feels way more personal and feels like way more realistic and like attached to where if you hear, for example, in the war, oh, 10 million people died in the war. The number is so huge to where it it becomes meaningless. To where you can't, there's no longer emotions associated with it because it feels too out of reach. It feels not feasible or not feasible. What's it called? They can't visualize it, and to them, like a million, 2 million, 3 million, it no longer has an effect on you. You can't visualize it. You're like, okay.
In the suffering of millions. To feel the pain of millions is to invite a psychological collapse. Sonder is the
It's also the fact, for example, when people go to war, like you just mentioned, the people will only mourn the like famous people. You know, it's also similar to when a famous person dies. For example, if a celebrity dies, hundreds, maybe even millions of people will mourn that person, even if they didn't know that person personally. While a normal person could die, 100 people could die in whatever way, and maybe their family and friends. Then that's all. Maybe like a couple hundred at most would mourn them, and that's it. While a stranger, just because he's famous, millions of people will mourn.
sensation of that protective dam momentarily breaking. This emotional disconnect wasn't always so severe. For most of human history, people lived in small tribal groups where Dunbar
And that's I feel like what caused people to be disassociated with what's happening, because there are so many people in the world now, and wherever you live, there's gonna be millions of people around you, to where you longer you just disassociated with anyone else, to where whatever happens to them, you won't feel anything. It won't have an effect on you.
number was sufficient. But then came the Industrial Revolution, and the quiet villages were traded for concrete jungles. In 1903, the sociologist George Simmel wrote a foundation essay titled The Metropolis and Mental Life. He wanted to understand what happened to the human psyche when it was suddenly forced to exist in the bustling, overwhelming chaos of the modern city. Simmel argued that the end in
You
the
know, for
bustling
example, when I walk around in the city and I like look at all these apartment windows and all these, and I imagine there are people living in each one of these apartments with as complex as life is. It's like it always shocks me. It always makes me like wonder, like what if I had this different life? What if I was this person right here? You know?
overwhelming chaos of the modern city. Simmel argued that the endless barrage of stimuli, the noise, the speed, and the sheer volume of the faces passing by threatened to tear the nervous system apart. In response, city dwellers were forced to develop what he called a blasé attitude, a psychological shield of deliberate indifference. The brain intentionally dulls its own reactions, turning human beings into gray, meaningless shapes just to avoid sensory overload. It is the sociology behind the NPC, the non-playable character. The modern human walking through a subway station during rush hour Stepping past a weeping stranger is not inherently malicious. They are merely surviving the metropolis. They are experiencing de-individuation,
They just have no connection to a person, so they don't care.
the terrifying phenomenon where the crowd erases the individuality of everyone inside it, turning 1,000 complex novels into a single roaring wall of white noise. Yet there has always been a quiet rebellion against this biological and sociological numbness. If the brain is built to ignore Sonder, art and literature are designed to forcefully induce it. The Roman poet Virgil introduced the phrase, the tears of things. It is the idea that there is a structural sorrow embedded in the very fabric of existence, a shared silent burden carried by everything that lives. To recognize this burden in strangers is the highest calling of the artist. In the 19th century, the French poet Charles Baudelaire championed the idea of the flâner, the urban wanderer who moves through the city specifically to absorb the invisible lives passing by, to read the faces of the crowd like the pages of a vast tragic book. Across the ocean, Walt Whitman stood on a deck of a Brooklyn ferry, staring into the water and the faces of the commuters around him. In his poetry, he attempted an impossible magic trick to collapse time itself. He addressed his words not just to the people beside him, but to strangers who would stand in the exact spot hundreds of years in the future, recognizing that their internal words would be identical to his own. And in Russia, Anton Chekhov built an entire literacy legacy as an exercise in Sonder. He wrote plays completely devoid of traditional extras. In a Chekhov play, the servant clearing the table has a soul, a heartbreak, and an interior just as complex as the wealthy aristocrat agonizing in the center of the room. Today, Google Street View accidentally created a vast archive of background characters. Clicking down a random digital highway in a foreign country, one
Yeah,
encounter
literally, you could see a random person, and seeing that person be like, how, what, this person is living as I am living. I know it's like, duh, of course, but like when you go to a different country and you're like, because it's one thing when you walk around in the country you live and you're like, oh, this person has a complex life. But when you go to other countries and imagine how many countries there are, how many people in the world there are, when you just see a random person be like, it's unimaginable how complex life in itself is.
the accidental portraits of strangers frozen midlife, figures waiting for a bus, carrying groceries, mid-conversations, forever trapped in a forgotten afternoon from 2014. Their faces
For example, this guy, you don't know after his work where he goes to live, if he has a house, if he doesn't have a house, if he has a wife and kids, if he has a family, if he has friends, what he does, where he goes, how his life as a construction person has been going.
forever trapped in a
If this person is his first day on the job, second day, his last day, whatever it is.
forgotten afternoon from 2014. Their faces are blurred by algorithms capturing a specific mundane second that no longer exists. They are digital ghosts, accidental monuments to lives that will never be fully known, yet are undeniably real, in a way that the image insists upon without being able to prove. When the realization of Sonder truly takes hold, it brings with it an undeniable existential vertigo. It hurts.
Yeah, it makes you feel like it makes you think about what is my purpose in life, like why am I alive? Because like I said, it makes you feel like insignificant, that you are nothing special about you. So when you think in that way, it makes life meaningless.
The ego to realize that one is not the protagonist of objective reality. It hurts to look at a lifetime of carefully curated
But you should never think in that way. You should always strive to make your own meaning out of your life.
memories, defining moments and deep personal traumas, and realize
Like the meaning to I believe the meaning to life is just to live and enjoy every moment until the last. to do whatever you want to do in the best way you can, and just enjoy life and not take things too seriously. That's what I feel like life is. Because as long as you're enjoying what you're doing and you're enjoying your life in general, you're on the right track. It doesn't matter how what other people are doing. As long as you're happy, that's the most important thing.
That to the rest of the universe, they are just ripples in someone else's background.
They're just numbers. They're like the metaphor, the basic metaphor that everyone says. You're just grains of sand in a desert.
It is the dread of insignificance. It is the quiet, creeping fear that human life is merely a drop of water returned into a vast, dark ocean. The ego violently recoils from the scale. It wants the tragedy of
You want to feel
Icarus
like
to
you're the
stop
main
the
person.
farmer in his tracks. It demands that the universe pay.
You want to feel like the world revolves around you. That you are the thing that makes the world run. You are the main person in everyone else's story. When you're out with your friends, you're the main. You're basically your friends revolve around you. Your people when people go out, you need to be there because you're the person that needs to be in every situation.
Attention, but the ocean does not care about the drop. It simply absorbs it. And yet, right at the very bottom of that despair, there's a floor. If the mind stops fighting the current, if one simply sits with the total discomfort of being unspecial, the existential vertigo begins to settle. The exhaustion of mattering fades away, and the sheer terror of Sonder slowly transmutes into something entirely different, a radical, intoxicating sense of relief. Much of modern anxiety is rooted in the exhausting performance of the self. Society trains individuals to believe they are constantly being perceived, evaluated, and measured against the grand narrative of history. There is a suffocating pressure to be memorable, to succeed, to leave a permanent scar on the earth. People carry the heavy, invisible armor of their own self-importance, terrified of falling from the sky because they assume the world has its eyes fixed upon them. But Sonder reveals this beautiful, liberating truth. The audience simply doesn't exist. Everyone is entirely too busy staring in their own epic narrative to
Everyone's focused
critically
on their own life
evaluate
to
the
care about what
performance
you
of
do.
an extra. If everyone is trapped in their own story, the pressure is entirely off. The agonizing weight of being perceived vanishes. A mistake is just a mistake. A failure will not echo through eternity
No one
because
cares about
eternity
your own
is
failure
simply too
or
crowded
even your
with
own
other
success.
people's noise to notice. Sonder is not a demotion from the center of the universe. It is an invitation to finally join the rest of humanity. We are all carrying the incomprehensible weight of an entire.
And when you imagine that other people's life is as complex as yours and their life is as meaningful as yours, it makes you feel more connected and more in touch with people, and you're able to sympathize. You're able to fuck. You're able to sympathize, sympathize with other people. You're able to feel what they're feeling more, and you're able to connect with them on a deeper level. When you walk around and know that person is as important and is as emotionally and his life is as complex as mine, you're able to sympathize. I said it. I said it. I said it. I'm not gonna say it again. Sympathize with a person, and you're able to connect with them to where, for example, the idea of them being hurt or the idea of them being affected anyway, you're able to feel that and be able to acknowledge what the person is, and you'll feel bad about hurting that person. When you basically dehumanize a person and their life is nothing more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're just one out of a million. You doing anything to them means nothing to you. It's like, for example, when a CEO in a company looks down on a spreadsheet. Oh, I have 100 million employees. We're losing money. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because when a company uses money, they have to do certain cuts or whatever. They're literally like, oh, well, we need to increase the profit margins. or a company. Okay, let's fire 50% of the workforce. Let's fire 50 of the 50 million people. 50 is exaggeration. That's a huge company. But let's say a million people. Okay, let's fire 500,000 people, get them out, and we'll keep the rest. Him making that decision, it seems so simple because it's like you playing a video game. When you play a video game, and let's look at it from a video game perspective as a strategy game. You are building your town, and you're the mayor of the town that you're building in this game. You want to increase profits, you want to increase taxes, so you make more money, so then you can use it to build other stuff, right? To you increasing the tax is your own right to do so. Nothing feels wrong about you doing so. If you increase it so much that this person dies, you won't feel anything. If you remove houses to make room for other buildings that you want to build, it's your right. It's your game. You're the mayor of this game. You're able to destroy, create, do whatever you want, and no one's going to be able to oppose you. That's the same view a CEO views in a company on his workforce. To him, it's a game. He wants to make profit. Best way to make profit. Let's fire this person. Let's move this person. Let's destroy this person. Let's destroy this building. Let's move this building. Let's do this. Because to him, it's just numbers. He doesn't see the people that are in the place as actual people. Look, when you play a game, do you actually see the NPCs or characters in the game as actual people? No, you don't. That's the same way the CEO views the people that work in his company. That they're not people. They're just numbers. So for him to fire them or whatever he does to them, less hours, more work hours, no overtime, to him, it makes no difference to him. But when you realize that another person's life is as complex as yours, you doing anything to them, hurting them, affecting them in any negative way, you'll sympathize and you'll feel bad about doing anything bad to them, and you feel good when you do something good to them, because you actually, they're, in your eyes, they're the same as you. When you view that, once you view a person that they're the same as you and not less than you, then anything that happens to them, you'll feel the same way that they feel. You'll feel as emotionally invested in the person as they are to you.
Universe inside our heads, walking past each other in subway stations, pretending it's perfectly normal. We are all Icarus falling from the sky in our own private tragedies, and we are all the farmer keeping our heads down, doing our best to tend to the dirt of our daily lives. To look at a stranger and truly see them, to acknowledge the invisible weight they carry, is to forgive oneself for being small. It is the realization that while a single life may just be a brief, unnoticed splash in the corner of a painting, the canvas is infinitely large, and every single inch of it is painted with the exact same beautiful, desperate colors.
It was a really good video, honestly. It gives you a new perspective on how you view life in general, and like how you thinking you are the main character of your own story. You have to always look at the bigger picture on how complex other people's life is. But good video. All in all, approve.